Hi, welcome back, everyone. I'm here today with Ihor, and we're going to talk about the amazing Barkley Marathons. First of all, how are you? How are you feeling? You just said you're back at work.
Good. Yeah. Thanks, Emily, for having me on your channel. Yeah, feeling good. The body is recovering and looking forward to future adventures already.
Amazing. So, just to start us off, can you give us a brief introduction into your background in running and why on earth would you enter the Barkley Marathons?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm still relatively new to ultra running and running in general. I started running probably 7 or so years ago as a road runner and just to keep myself sane. It was a mental tool for me ever since I moved to Canada. And then transitioned to trail running and ultra running after the pandemic hit the world, and trail was the only safe place to be on. And I never went back to the roads, discovered the world of ultra running, and I realized that I really enjoy going distance, pushing myself to the limits, and yeah, that's where ultra running came into the game, and I started trying different formats, um, you know, doing different races, and obviously Barkley became one of those um, lifelong goals, I guess, that I wanted to attempt, and I guess it happened.
So what was the process like entering the Barclays? Was it quite a prolonged process? Because I've heard it's quite secretive.
Yeah, it is pretty secretive. I mean, everyone knows about Barkley, but nobody knows how to get in, and you know, it's like one of those secret clubs everyone wants to be a part of, but only if you get a chance to become a participant of Berkeley. I think it's around 40 people or so every year get that chance, and I'm really honored, to be honest, to be a part of it. As I was running my last stretch on Loop 5, I was just thinking how fortunate I am to be, in these trails or off trails, and just be a part of this historic and historical race.
So what sort of training did you do leading up to the race? How would you prepare for something like this?
I tend to think that my entire life was some sort of training block for Barkley, another format of last backyard. Was growing up in Ukraine. I did a lot of walking. We didn't have a vehicle, so that was one of my biggest aerobic blocks I've ever had. So for years, I would walk back to school and back, and I think it was just a nice beginning. But yeah, once I knew that I wanted to do a thing like Barclay, I knew that I needed to take my training to another level, and I would put in long, long days training multiple aspects, not only my body but my mind, also my navigation skills, because that's what differentiates Barclay from any other race. You have to be fairly comfortable with the map and compass and knowing your surroundings. So I spent multiple months and years building that strength, building that confidence and knowledge about navigating, and eventually it all came to fruition, and all the pieces of puzzle came together, and I was able uh, to do fairly well at Barkley.
So what was it like in those first few hours you've just set off, everybody's with you. We didn't know because we were all kept in the dark, but how did it feel? What was the energy like between everybody?
I felt like a little child Christmas, and that little forbidden fruit, because you're not allowed to be on the off trail, right? To go train previously. We can go and train on the trails. So I've seen some trails before Barkley, but the second you go into the woods, just that feeling like, oh my gosh, I get to be here. Just me and these 39 other athletes get to experience this year. And yeah, it was very nerve wracking, but you kind of get into the groove. You know that you can keep up with leaders, and it felt good. And once we got to the first book, and as I was ripping the page, my hands were shaking. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's happening. This is my first book. Yeah, so it kind of it was very exciting, yeah. And first loop was very interesting because so many people stuck together. We had a very big group, almost entire loop. So we got to know each other here and there, and I tried to start memorizing the course from the very beginning and pay attention while my brain is still not foggy, it's not that sleep deprived, because that first loop is very important because your brain is still fresh, so you get to memorize as much as possible. But if you focus on racing, if you focus on just keeping up, you will forget about the part that where you need to think and memorize the course. And the thing with Barkley is that you can't just look forward, you have to look behind and memorize what's behind, because next loop is going to be counterclockwise. So you'll have to be comfortable with that too, right? But yeah, then we get into the groove after loop two, and it's all hard work and teamwork, and yeah, exciting times.
So you're obviously racing against people who had done it quite a few times before, like John Kelly and Jerry Campbell, and even Jasmine. How did it? You were a virgin, as they said in this aspect. Did you feel a little bit worried about that these people were kind of a little bit more knowledgeable, or were you just kind of in your own race?
You know what? At the beginning, I was a little bit nervous, thinking that, okay, it's my first time, but then it's okay. Everyone starts with something, right? And the thing about Barkley, the athletes of Barkley are not just great runners, they're actually great people. And I saw that in everyone I was with, including John Kelly, Jared Campbell, Damian Hall, Jasmine Paris, even though they were veterans, but they're humble humans, and they didn't mind, sharing their wisdom, sharing their knowledge. And I'm just so appreciative for that, because just by being with them, they might not necessarily show this and that or tell everything, but just being able to be with them and being a part of their journey too, I learned so much. And I definitely took away so much from Barkley experience, not only the course, but the way they behave, the way they, put themselves out there, and the way they compete and do these races. So I'm very fortunate to be, to spend so many hours and loops in the company with them.
So what sort of mindset do you think is required for a race like this? You've mentioned you've got your racing as part of it, you've got timekeeping as part of it, distance, making sure that your nutrition is on top. What sort of mindset do you need to have to kind of envelop all those things together?
Yeah, it's the thing with the Barkley, you gotta pay attention to every single detail to have to be well rounded about everything. My training and preparation for Barkley, uh, you know, you hear those horror stories and all craziness about Barkley, how terrible the course is, but you can't see it, right? You can't realize it until you're actually there. So in my preparation for Barkley, I was preparing for the worst. Like in my head, I had the worst pictures ever. And when I was once in the Barkley course, I ran into the worst. So my expectations were exactly where the Barkley course was. So I expected it, it's there, and I'm ready. And I knew that I put in a lot of work, training wise for Barkley, and physically, mentally, lots of time spent training navigation skills and work with the map. Uh, yeah, I worked with my crew, Jody Eisner, who helped me to become a better navigator, and I'm so thankful to him for that. Uh, yeah, it's hard to believe it. I mean, it was 60 hours, but now it seems like a blur. Like it was just a few seconds, and it's hard to believe that it happened so fast.
So, how much did you sleep exactly in those 60 hours? And what was the sleep deprivation like?
Yeah, so I slept 0 seconds,
Wow.
nothing at all. And I had experience of going through multiple nights at the Big Dogs Backyard Ultra a few months earlier,
Mhm.
also in Tennessee. It seems like Tennessee has become a pain cave. Uh, but yeah, I had that experience of going through 4 nights. So I know now doing that race helped me to find those new limits and edges and those feelings and how to deal with those feelings, when it arrives. And at Barkley, so the night before, we didn't get much sleep, because we were all excited, anticipating, not knowing when the conch is going to be blown. So we didn't really get much sleep. But yeah, going through the first night, I didn't have any issues. Going into the second night, yeah, we started getting a bit sleep deprived. We started feeling it a bit more, but honestly, it wasn't really a problem. There's nothing that would stop me from it. Sleep deprivation wasn't an issue at all. If anything, all those briar cuts were keeping me alert. And I was joking that I was intentionally picking the thickest route through the briars so that they would keep me awake and alert. And yeah, when I finished fourth loop, I know John took a little break to take a nap, but I didn't feel like I had to spend time sleeping because fifth loop you're on your own. So I want to make sure I have enough time for navigation because still first year and not that comfortable, and I want to make sure I have extra minutes in case I do find myself in a pickle and I need to fix something here and there.
So did you have any hallucinations then, or were you quite sane?
You know what? I honestly, I never get hallucinations,
Wow.
which is kind of sad. Even at Big Dog's backyard, I went through so many nights, and I don't have any I do get confused when I go into a deep sleep deprivation. I forget where I am and what I'm doing. But at Barkley, we didn't get to that extent. So I did not have a hallucination. We saw a group of hogs, and for a second I thought maybe that was a hallucination, and I pointed, I mentioned it to Damien and John. I was like, "Hey, do you see them?" And they saw them too. So it wasn't a hallucination.
Or you
uh,
all saw it at the same time.
yeah.
What was your nutrition like, through this? What sort of things were you eating?
Yeah, in my lifestyle, daily life, I try to maintain the low carb, high fat lifestyle. That's usually what's working for me. But when I started racing, I started loading up on all the possible and impossible sugars and stuff that can get me through. I was trying to eat uh, real food most of the time, especially in the camp. My crew, Jody, was amazing, surprising me and cooking all these delicious foods that I was just devouring there quickly. Had no issues with my stomach. I was able to digest everything I put in. And on the loop, I would try to eat something quick. Um, Either some bars, or some chews or gels here and there. I would mix tailwind, for if there is the huge hill coming up and I just wanted to have some liquid calories. And there were many hours where I didn't feel like eating at all. So I was just burning my fats. And as a result of all my training, nutrition training. And yeah, nutrition has never been an issue for me. So uh, yeah, and Barkley just proved that my nutrition strategy worked for me, and I'll just stick to it.
So how did it feel, starting that fifth loop? As soon as you get on that fifth loop, you're on your own, like you said, you're out there on, you've kind of already cemented yourself into the history books just by getting on that fifth loop. But how did it feel actually beginning?
Um, well, I was very nervous, of course, as I started it because you're on your own. Help is not coming. It's just you out there, your map and your compass and all your knowledge that you acquired over previous 4 loops and previous many years of training. And yeah, and I just in order to kind of quench that nervousness, I told myself, we're going to do one book at a time. Let's not think about all 15 books. Let's find every book and we will celebrate every book. And that's how I went with it. I found one book. I was like, oh my gosh, so great. Perfect. Amazing. I'm the great navigator. Let's move on. I went on and found the second book, and then with no issues, didn't make any mistake there. And I would celebrate myself again, like, this is great. I'm like one book closer to the finish, and on and on and on. And, surprisingly, I I was pretty tired, obviously. Sleep deprivation is kicking in, but I was just trusting my map. I was trusting my compass. You cannot go against, the law of nature, and it led me the right way 15 times. I There's only one book that I slightly overshot that I had to retrace back, but I wasted maybe 10 minutes. And other than that, I hit every single book spot on. And at the end, like, I couldn't believe it because I know I I'm okay navigator, but I would never say that I'm the great navigator like other veterans, especially Jasmine, who is a absolutely astonishing natural navigator. Like, she impressed me so much. She's like my inspiration now, to be honest, especially in navigational field. Yeah, and when I got that 15th book, and the rest was just an easy uh, downhill. Um, I couldn't believe it. Like, I still sometimes I think I'm just sleeping somewhere in the woods. I fell asleep on the way to the book number 5 or 6, and this is all just a dream, And I'm just dreaming that I finished it.
You're just gonna wake up still on the side of a mountain somewhere.
Yeah, and last dispatched search and rescue trying to find me, and they've been looking for me for days now.
So at what point did you that other people, when you're out there and on the fifth loop and you're crossing over, was there a sense of like, oh my gosh, you're here too? Like, what, congratulations? Was there really a camaraderie at that point?
Absolutely, yeah. I ran into so John, Greg, and Jarrett, and they were really close. They were not together, maybe a couple minutes, behind each other. And I ran into them where I thought they were a little bit ahead of me on the loop. But again, maybe I just did my math wrong in my head. And yeah, of course we cheered each other. Like, I was so happy to see them because, well, first I knew that I was on the right path, at least, because three veterans cannot be on the wrong path, and I'm like, yes, I'm in the right spot somewhere. So we support each other and, wished everyone good luck, and I told everyone, see you at the finish line, and I thought they were a little bit ahead of me. So when I went to the very last book, I actually sat on the rock there overlooking um, the Frozen Hat State Park. In my head, I was just, celebrating this moment, thinking, "Oh my goodness, like, this is all over now. All this adventure has come to an end." So I was taking it really easy on the downhill from there to the very finish, and I thought I would run into them there already finished. But yeah, I was surprised. I was very surprised to know that I was first. But then, as I was chatting with veterans and I told them where I ran into them, they said, "Yeah, you were definitely ahead of them on the loop there." So, oh gosh, yeah, it's still hard to believe. It might take a few months, if not years, to sink in.
Well, how did it feel? You touched that gate, you finished. I'm sure, I've seen the videos and everybody is cheering, and it's probably just a feeling you can't even describe. But then how did it feel watching, everybody else slowly start to make their way back in, especially, Jasmine 90 seconds off. How did it feel one by one, everybody coming back?
Yeah, I was so happy for every single one of them. I can't think of, more deserving people to finish uh, the race, and especially, Jasmine. We were all, after guys finished, there are 4 of us there, and there was almost no time left. But everyone believed in Jasmine. Everyone knew that she was gonna do it. She was gonna. There's no way she's not gonna finish. And when I think John Kelly's child saw her coming up to the camp, and we got just so emotional that we got out, started cheering her on. And if you think about it, 60-hour race, and it comes down to seconds. It's absolutely mind-boggling. You know, People were crying there, seeing her accomplishing it and proving lads wrong. Proving that females can finish Barkley. she is a true inspiration, as well as all other finishers, of course, the veterans. I learned so much from all of them, and I feel like I'm just so blessed and honored to be a part of their journey too.
So, as a Ukrainian national, are you proud to represent your country like this during, such a distraught time for your country?
Absolutely. I think um, many people get comfortable and get carried on with their life, and they forget about what's happening in Ukraine. And Ukraine is struggling and going through very tough times. And of course, me as a national of Ukraine and Canada, I think it's my duty to remind people, given the platform that I have, that Ukraine is still fighting. Ukraine is still uh, in this fight for freedom, for independence. And if I can keep reminding people about what's going on in Ukraine, I feel like it's my duty, and I want to make sure that Ukraine is not forgotten. And I believe that Ukraine will win, will be victorious, and will be free.
How do you hope your race will inspire other people to, take out ultra running?
Well, I got even today as I logged in, and I just got an email from my coworker who congratulated me on this achievement. She said, "You know what? You inspired me to walk, to get out there and walk every day." And this is this is such a heartwarming to hear, and I hear it very often. If I can inspire people, not necessarily go and run ultras. Ultras are not even healthy. I don't I don't recommend running until your body starts breaking down. But if I can inspire people to get out there and be active, change their lifestyle, improve their lives, this is the biggest reward for me.
So what's next? What are you hoping to race in next? What can we see you? Where can we see you next?
Well, my racing calendar is not set, I guess, completely. So I'm open to suggestions. So if you do have suggestions, Emily, shoot. But, I do definitely have a few local races in Canada. I would love to travel across Canada and do different races in different provinces, support local race directors. And, in Canada, the sport of ultra running is still growing. And I would love to support our race directors in their attempt to grow our races and put our sport and then take our sport to another level. And yeah, I'll be outside in the states once for sure in September. It's mostly all the races I'll be doing 100 milers. I feel like that's the distance where I can be somewhat competitive sometimes, and you don't have to go too fast.
You should
Because
come over
going
to the
fast.
UK. Come over to the UK. We've got some amazing races over here.
Well, I would love to do the spine. I heard so many things from Jasmine and from Damien, of course, about the spine. So yeah, I would love to. One day I will be there, and I would love to experience your beautiful trails.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to me. I hope recovery is going well. And bask in the glory because you honestly deserve it. It was amazing.
Thank you so much, Emily. You're very kind. Thank you so much for inviting me on your channel.
Thank you.